Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to this video. This video is all about this thing right here, this Corsair Sabre RGB mouse. Now, it's quite a small entry-level mouse. There's been quite a few Corsair mice over the years, and while they do have the Raptor range, I would describe this as a mouse for maybe people with slightly smaller hands or people with a slightly smaller budget. It did have a version released about a year ago, maybe it was getting on for 2, when they had the new Corsair logo, but people quickly said, I don't like the logo, and Corsair have said, okay, and they've gone back and brought back the old logo minus the words Corsair. So, is this a mouse you should be buying, or is this one maybe you should leave on the shelf? Well, let's take a look at the basics. This mouse comes in 2 flavours. One slightly cheaper optical version with a lower DPI of only 6400, and then a laser one with a DPI of 8200. The laser one is more expensive and in theory should perform better. The one I've got right here is the optical version, so this is retailing for around about £35 here in the UK, which is actually pretty reasonable for a gaming mouse. I myself have been using an M65 mouse by Corsair for the last few years, and that was more about £55 when it was released. So you're getting on for nearly half the price. If you do opt for the laser version, then you are then looking at around about £45, which is getting very close to the M65. But let's start by talking a little bit about the mouse and its features. We have a sort of plastic-like shell, and the whole mouse itself is pretty small. And it's worth bearing in mind that no matter which sensor you go for, the overall shell is going to be the same. It's got a nice matte-like finish that's very good to the touch, which is obviously what you'd want when you're literally going to be touching it all the time. And then you've got customizable buttons, and there aren't really that many customizable buttons, and to be honest you probably aren't really going to want to change the features. You've got the buttons on the left, which are your back and forward buttons in a browser, or you can customize these to, say, throw grenades or special grenades in something like Call of Duty. You've got the DPI buttons at the top of the mouse, and then likewise you can change these to do something else if you want. So if you wanted these to almost be like a DPI at 800, like a sniper button, you can do that, and I did try and do that with a varying amount of success, but more on that later. Then we've also got an infinite scroll wheel, which is very useful and is very good. It doesn't squeak like the M65 version that I had a few years ago. And then we've also got this weird button at the top, and that is a on-the-fly mode switcher. So if you want to go from, say, internet mode, where you've got the left buttons as your back and forward buttons, you can change these to do some more gaming-like features and give them macros or something like that. And this is all configurable in the software. We've also got the RGB lighting, which I'll talk about properly in a moment, but again, that is all customizable in the Corsair software. Now, in a mouse, I would say there are 2 really important things: handling and performance. Handling, obviously, because you're going to be handling this all day, and then performance because you're going to be using it on screen all day. Now, we can talk about the lighting, and we will talk about that properly in a moment, but when it comes to handling, there was one serious flaw that I found with this mouse that really did put me off. Now, to give you the full backstory, I've been using M65 for ages. I switched to a Rocket Tion for maybe a month, and while I liked it, if you can watch that review, you'll see that there was a small problem where it was becoming a joystick, and that's the main reason I'm not using it today. But the point is, I've used a few mice over the years, but this is probably the smallest one I have ever used. Now the problem with that is, it didn't actually accommodate this finger right here. So it kind of felt as if it was hanging off the mouse, and if I did bring it on to attach to the mouse, and this is really difficult to explain with words, and I hope the B-roll footage of me using the mouse will illustrate this better, but it just felt that the finger didn't really belong anywhere, and when you're spending £35 for a mouse, you kind of want it to accommodate all your fingers. That's not to say that if you do have small hands, then it's not going to fit really well. But for my sort of medium-sized hands, I have to admit I did struggle and didn't find it that comfortable to use. If we want to talk about performance, the optical version I have to say performed pretty well. Not as good as the laser that was in the M65, but still pretty good. And for £35, I'd say performance is pretty top. So that's it for performance. Let's actually talk about the mouse's lighting. This is part of the RGB range, so as you'd expect it would have full RGB lighting. And I have to say the mouse does look very good when it's lit. You can choose from a whole variety of patterns and modes, just like you can with the Corsair keyboard that I reviewed last week, as well as the upcoming Void headset review. And the thing that I liked that was quite cool, if you have all three products, then you can sync the lighting. So I had it going from a red to a blue and a sort of breathing pattern. And all three devices in sync will do that, will breathe in and breathe out. And I have to say that was a very nice effect. But with this mouse you can set it to be very jazzy, very mundane, anything you like really. And one thing that I had to say about the Corsair keyboard, the K70, was that it was a hell of a lot of money, and I'm sure a lot of that was for the lighting. Whereas with this mouse, I don't really think it clearly adds too much to the cost, because at £35 or £45 respectively, it's still actually a pretty well priced mouse. And so from a lighting point of view, it does get my thumbs up. I think it looks very good, it feels very good, and as soon as you add the lighting in there, it looks pretty fantastic. And so now we've talked about all aspects of the mouse, the only thing left to do is wrap up and do a conclusion. For me personally, as much as it pains me to say it, I didn't really get on with this mouse. That's not to say its performance is bad. Its performance was very good, and the RGB lighting made it very visually appealing, and that nice sort of soft touch plastic actually felt very nice in the hand. But the shape of it unfortunately didn't feel very nice for me in the hand, and thus if you have smaller hands, this may well be worth a look at, but for everyone else I'd highly advise that you go into a shop and test it out for yourself, because then that way you're going to know for sure whether this will fit in your hand nicely, or like me, you'll find yourself getting a little bit lost. So thank you so much for checking out this video. As always, this wins the Good Option Award, because quite frankly it's a good option if you have the right sized hands, or if you're on more of a budget, then the £35 asking price is actually pretty reasonable for the level of performance you get. But for most people, in all honesty, I would point them towards the ever so slightly more M65, because I think it fits nicer in the hand, it's nice sort of metal finish, and it's got that lovely sniper button that I have become so accustomed to. I was going to say so accustomed to. Anyway, thank you so much for checking out this video. As always, I hope it's been very useful. If you have any questions about this mouse, at PCcentric on Twitter, that's the place to go. For any other questions, then at PCcentric is also the place to go. If you like this video, then please give it a like, because it really helps and shows other people this is a video worth watching. And likewise, if you haven't liked it, then don't be afraid to hit the dislike button, but please let me know in the comments section why you didn't like it. For more videos like this and other peripheral reviews or gaming reviews or PC component reviews, don't forget to subscribe to PCcentric. You know it's time for me to end the video when I'm really needing a drink right now. So I will end it. Thank you so much for checking out this video as always, and I'll see you in the next one.